Muchas gracias, Francisco. Yo voy a hablar un poco de portuñol, porque Francisco es de origen hispánica y comprende bien español.
Claro.
¿No? Si usted quiere responder en español o en inglés, como quiera. ¿Okay?
Gracias.
Gracias. Francisco, coronel, una de las cosas que nosotros oímos acá y oímos por toda parte en Brasil es que hay mucha discusión, muchos diagnósticos sobre la situación de la criminalidad, pero poco se ve acciones integradas, común iniciativas que han sido realmente de suceso de una forma generalizada en el país. Hay experiencias acá y allá, pero no generalizada. Por su experiencia de ter estado en más de 20 países, ¿cuáles son las características comunes que producen la reversión de los índices de criminalidad para abajo?
Las características de departamentos de policías y de gobiernos que han podido cambiar la situación, como en Afganistán o Irak o Nueva York City, Singapur es otro buen ejemplo. Uno, como dije antes, el respeto a la policía es muy importante, pero más importante, el respeto es lo más posible si toda la policía tiene principios que son consistentes y que todo el tiempo son hechos muy disciplinadamente. Cuando hay inconsistency, el público no puede dar la confianza universalmente. Eso es algo que es muy importante. Segunda parte que es importante, he experienciado diferentes departamentos de policía y hasta nuestro ejército de Marines en los Estados Unidos tiene un programa igual que en lugar de buscar a gente, a ciudadanos que quieran ser miembros de una profesión para una carrera de 20 o 30 años, los tratan de agarrar para venir solamente 1, 2 o 3 años y regresar a sus carreras, a ser maestros o a trabajar en negocio o a trabajar en el gobierno. Y el concepto que es importante en ese principio es que la policía ahora tiene embajadores que son ciudadanos privados trabajando diferentes cosas como usted y que puede decir un día, hace 10 años, yo también fui policía porque yo quise ser, no porque tuve que ser policía.
¿Cómo se logra obtener en la sociedad este objetivo común? Una visión común para enderezar la solución efectiva.
Sí. Como estoy hablando de Nueva York City, estaba compartiendo con otra amistad este fin de semana que el modelo que Giuliani siguió se llama Cotter's Change Model y tiene unos cuantos de pasos de hacer. Hay dos maneras de agarrar una visión. Claro, un líder que es muy carismático, que puede convencer a la gente de la visión. Y el segundo, que la comunidad misma, por frustración o por querer tener electricidad o comida o agua o less violence, ¿verdad?, va a tratar de llamar a radio shows, va a tratar de dar entrevistas de televisión o va a tratar de tener una voz más pública para que un líder pueda agarrar esa frustración y convertirla en una visión.
Okay. Colonel, I'm asked to change the speech from Spanish to English.
All right.
Because there is no simultaneous translation for Spanish. It's okay for... so let's go back to English, right? Okay? But I'm gonna address the questions in Portuguese. I think it's better. If you can use the headset, it will be fine. Okay? Do you have it on? Yeah? Thank you. Okay? It's working? Ok. Tem uma pergunta de um colega seu do Exército Brasileiro, Coronel Mário Andreasa, que pergunta se o senhor acha que os 3 princípios que fizeram sucesso no combate ao crime na cidade de Nova York são aplicáveis a outros países como o Brasil. E se a diferença entre o sistema, o aparato jurídico, pode ser um fato desfavorável para o Exército e as polícias brasileiras.
So I do believe that the three principles that were followed in New York City could be relevant here in Brazil. Whenever you think of a common vision, that's something that's very important to be able to unify. Clearly here, you could see that the ICF has been able to provide a common vision that has inspired a lot of people, both in private business and in the public, to come forward. The second point that described here in New York City was the ability to go ahead and have respect for the police department. I have been able to travel this weekend and have been able to see the pride in every police officer with their new vehicle and their nice emblem for ICF. So I could clearly see that more equipment, better training, increases in the police force is going to go ahead and only help towards the concept of respect for the police. So, and the last piece, of course, is the coalition, right? So ICF is synonymous with building that coalition, and the true potential with ICF, quite honestly, could be a function of creating multiple coalitions for different problem sets to improve the society overall. I know that this one here being lowering violence and improving public safety could just be the beginning of many other great recommendations for your city.
Ok. Coronel, no Brasil, no México, nos Estados Unidos e em muitos outros países, há muitas instâncias diferentes de instituições e organismos que lidam com a segurança pública. E se muito questiona, inclusive nos Estados Unidos, Brasil também, essa desintegração. Por que é tão difícil integrar as atividades de segurança de uma forma mais eficaz, mais efetiva?
So, in my opinion, and I'm coming back down to my time at Homeland Security, where I was helping build task forces for southern border immigration. You have a balance, and the balance is between individual rights and security. So today we heard one of the speakers here discussing the concept of human rights, and they had a presentation with a lot of statistics. I noticed that some of those statistics were from other countries. And so as a strategist, I always think it's very difficult when you deal with realities. If you're trying to apply a principle that everyone else is adhering to in a reality which has very high public safety, and you have the luxury to focus on certain aspects of security, as opposed to another environment where you do not have, where you fear for your life, where you have to drive with bulletproof glass, where you cannot go to certain parts of your city. That balance there is the concept of leadership.
Ok. Coronel, se diz que os militares das Forças Armadas não são formados, não são treinados para aprender e menos ainda para investigar. Se diz também até que algemas não fazem parte, digamos, do equipamento de um oficial das Forças Armadas. O senhor concorda com isso, que os oficiais, que os militares das Forças Armadas não são treinados para aprender e investigar? E como é que foi a sua experiência em relação a isso no Iraque e no Afeganistão?
That's a great question. I had to lead that mission in Iraq specifically. And our armed forces have had those challenges for several years. And so when you think of the concept of the Army, it's trained to do a very specific mission, which is win wars for some nations. I've been to other nations like Japan, and they have limited restrictions in what their Army could do. Regardless of what that is for your country, the Army is designed to do one particular function. So when you have to change them to do a separate one, for example, being a police officer, which I have had to do, the challenge there is you have to be able to train very hard to do a job, one. Two, you have to be able to decide which one you need most, the function that you were originally designed for, or this new function of the police. That's point one. Point two that I think is very difficult, I did not have, in my experience, to train a military force to become police and compete with other police.
Como assim?
We had to build another police department. Whenever you're competing with the military and the police, I think that there is, again, a balance between how much you want to go ahead and do with the military police, how much you want to go ahead and improve your civil police. Do you work in combination? Do you work independently? Do you surge? Do you go ahead and do it for 1 month? Do you do it for a year? Do you do it indefinitely? What I will share with you is that when I was in Iraq and we first arrived to the country in 2003, citizens of Iraq would look at American soldiers and marvel at the equipment that we had. They believed that we had x-ray glasses. They believed that we had equipment that they couldn't see. 6 months after being there, day in and day out, they knew that they were selling us soda. They knew that they were selling us the sunglasses. We had lost the edge of being able to have that perception.
Essa é uma questão que eu gostaria de ver endereçada, porque tanto no Iraque quanto no Afeganistão, o exército americano, as forças armadas americanas encontraram um sistema policial muito anacrônico de um lado, ou forças de segurança que restaram de um país, de países em guerra, muito anacrônicas de um lado, com uma formação muito deficiente, e de outro lado, com alto índice de corrupção. Como é que se dava a relação no alto comando, ou no comando em que você participava, entre as forças policiais altamente treinadas e motivadas, com essas forças policiais, digamos, não exatamente no padrão que o exército americano está acostumado?
So I think using your question and focusing, acknowledging the time that we have, so out of respect for your time, I think that the powerful component of your question is to be able to, and it comes back to leadership, to be able to identify the people that are at higher capacity, whether in our case it may have been NATO forces or non-NATO forces. In some cases it may be military forces or civil forces. In other cases it may be a precinct force versus another precinct force, whatever the case is, to be able to counterbalance it. A security force assistance model is an example of that, where you have a small element that the leader believes is superior to integrate with a larger element that may not have the same capability, so they could teach them, coach them, and provide oversight to make sure that they're increasing in capability. It makes no sense to be able to do nothing, and if you know that you have an element that is not the same as this element, to just allow that element to continue.
O que, na sua opinião, funcionava no patrulhamento, no policiamento, no patrulhamento que vocês faziam no Iraque e no Afeganistão? O que era mais eficaz do ponto de vista de operação? A força bruta ou a prevenção, a ação social?
So I think, once again, to your question, the power in his question that I learned humbly is that as a police officer or as a military member, the civilian population is always observing you. They are always judging you. And you cannot expect a community to be able to look every single time you do something good. And naturally, with the press and communities just talking, everybody focuses on when something goes wrong. So it really requires a lot of discipline. Some police departments in America have integrated cameras into the police officers to do two things. One, obviously, to make sure, through leadership, that they have an ability to combat a civilian with a cell phone that has a videotape of the police officer doing something bad. The police officer's video may be able to show what led to that situation, which was a series of other violent crimes that were not captured on that video. So.
Agora, os Estados Unidos se retiraram do Afeganistão e do Iraque, formalmente, mas eu gostaria de uma avaliação sua, se ao longo dos anos, sobretudo no Afeganistão, onde você teve mais tempo, houve uma melhora na percepção das tropas americanas, pelo ponto de vista da população civil, ou houve uma piora? E quais são os motivos para isso?
Right, so that question really comes down to the concept of perceptions and realities. When you take the two examples of Iraq and Afghanistan, in one country, you had a society like yourself, like us in America, very functioning, happy, economy, enjoyment, and then there was war, right? Chaos. So in Afghanistan, they had a situation where they had been at war for 30 years, which meant that multiple generations had grown up in the concept of war, which really comes down to the concept of hope. In one country, you had citizens that you were working with that had hope to return to what they knew already. In another country, you had citizens you were working with that were hopeless. They did not, they never knew what it was to be normal. So I think that over time, the public perception in both countries for American troops went up and down.
E o que foi mais efetivo para ser, digamos assim, positivo? Eu estou fazendo essa pergunta porque nós estamos vivendo, como você sabe, uma intervenção das Forças Armadas brasileiras, em particular do Exército, no Rio de Janeiro. E embora haja uma ampla maioria da população a favor desta intervenção, há setores, há segmentos, que as pesquisas mostram de 20% a 30%, que não avaliam positivamente essa intervenção. O que deveria ser feito, na sua opinião, para que houvesse, digamos, maior efetividade na percepção pública de uma intervenção, como a que ocorre, por exemplo, nas situações de Forças Armadas em populações civis?
So a couple of points, and I mentioned this earlier in a previous interview. Whenever you're at a situation in governance where you are at a loss of options, you typically tend to look at anything that's feasible to apply to solve the problem, such as militarizing an entire city to go ahead and decrease the violence. The things that could do to be improved is obviously a clear narrative from leadership to be able to say, we will do this because of this reason, for this amount of time, and we will measure it and report back or reassess for this amount of time. The second piece that has to be done through leadership and the society, the citizens, is to be able to understand what you lose when you gain something. So a lot of the times, you select an artifact to go ahead and solve a problem, not realizing what you were going to lose with the existing principles. This is a common argument in our country with regards to constitutional rights. As we continue to go forward, that's why we typically go back to the principles.
Coronel, na sua passagem pelo Iraque, especialmente, você teve uma experiência com prisões, administração, gestão de prisões. O que você aprendeu nessa sua experiência? Até porque aqui no Brasil, em Porto Alegre, não sei se você tem conhecimento, acredito que sim, a Brigada Militar está presente em diferentes momentos, diferentes situações, e na gestão e controle de prisões também.
Right. So, in my humble experience, I clearly did not run a prison the sizes, of your prisons here. But what was very important is obviously the individual discipline of each soldier to be able to perform their job, the attention to details and the principles that we had established. But without a doubt, the most important part was oversight. If the checker does not check, the doer is not going to do.
E nem sempre as prisões iraquianas ou afegãs, não sei qual o conhecimento que você tem, seriam comparáveis às situações das prisões brasileiras?
Right. So I don't have, looking at the prisons with the headlines and the large operations that were in the news, I don't have that much experience there. But I think it's very clear from public statements of our government that they could admit that there was mistakes there and that the concept of oversight, which I mentioned earlier, is paramount when you're running the lives of other people in a prison.
Ok. Quando eu gostaria de mudar um pouquinho para a gestão da segurança e falar um pouquinho sobre o uso de dados, de data, no combate ao crime. Qual é a sua experiência, qual é a sua visão de presente e de futuro, sobretudo com o uso de inteligência artificial e com grandes bancos de dados para combater a criminalidade?
So in my opinion, the concept of artificial intelligence really comes down to the function of being able to make decisions. What decisions need to be made by humans and what decisions need to be made, delegated to a computer or something automatic. That's going to be a concept that globally we're going to struggle with for at least the next decade. And it is going to be a balance. And I'm sure there's going to be mistakes and back and forth. When it comes to public security here, as I understand the situation, a small level of technological advancements are going to make a significant difference in the organization, the application of law enforcement, and most importantly, in the investigation aspects at the civil level.
Na sua opinião, que funções policiais não poderão jamais ser delegadas, do ponto de vista de gestão, para computadores ou inteligência artificial, e quais são algumas que provavelmente migrarão para algo mais automatizado?
That's great. That's a great question. 2 points. The first point I stand very strict behind, which is the function of morality. You could never delegate the concept of morality to a machine. It has to be a human decision, and it has to be a human decision because there has to be a responsibility for those decisions. With regards to what can be delegated to machines, clearly establishing a pattern of being able to have information that's essential when you have a criminal apprehended is very important. And if you have a system of paperwork or if you have a system of communication, that's going to be less effective than if you have a digital system that you could immediately see everything of the person that you're dealing with right now. Even better if you could see it before you pull them over.
Ok. Coronel, uma pergunta controversa e polêmica. A rivalidade entre polícias, departamentos e distritos é sempre algo negativo ou pode ser também transformado em algo positivo?
Could you restate your question? I don't think I understand.
Eu gostaria, por exemplo, eu sei que em Nova York há uma certa competição entre distritos policiais por quem é mais eficaz, mais efetivo. Essa rivalidade, ela é sempre negativa ou ela pode ser positiva? Essa competição.
Yeah. So the competition really comes down again to the function of leadership. And so it's the leader's job to be able to reassess over and over when you're getting more negative than positive, and then being able to apply the change. And vice versa, as I stated in my comments, when you expect to achieve 10, it's the leader's job to assess, to see when all of a sudden you can achieve 20 or 30 and apply the change required to do that.
Ok. Coronel, no Brasil, no Rio Grande do Sul não é diferente, nós temos muito mais policiais feridos e mortos em ação do que seria minimamente tolerável ou admissível. É uma tragédia gigantesca nas nossas sociedades. Cada vez que um policial é ferido, cada vez que um policial é morto. Eu gostaria que o senhor agora falasse um pouco da sua experiência pessoal, a sua experiência de ter recebido o Purple Heart, de ser ferido em combate, e que mensagem o senhor dá para os combatentes nossos do dia a dia?
For your police?
Para essa plateia, por exemplo, e para todos os policiais enfim, todas as pessoas que lidam com segurança a partir da sua própria experiência. Queria que o senhor contasse um pouco como foi a sua experiência de ser ferido em combate e que mensagem o senhor deixa para esses policiais.
So the message that I leave is two, okay, which is very important. And it's taken me a lot of years to understand it a bit better. I shared my story with Marcelo, play by play, on my own experience. But what I have concluded is, one, training does make a difference. So if you train with repetition over and over and over again, you will know what the right thing to do is when faced in a tough situation. Along that line, I will tell you that the decisions you have to make are in a split second and really come down to intuition, which leads to my second point, to the public. So if the first one was to the police officers here, the second one is to the public. And it's very difficult to cast judgment on people that have to make split decisions on behalf of your own security. So I have to deal with that reality myself in my personal life with decisions that not only in that case, but in other cases that I had in combat, that I had leaders that either made a bad decision or a good decision. The person that made the good decision doesn't think twice, doesn't think he's a better person than another person, but the person that made the bad decision lives with a horrible regret throughout their entire life.
Ok. Coronel, muito obrigado. Chegamos ao fim do nosso painel. Eu agradeço muito. Em nome do Leonardo aqui, presente também, de toda a direção do Instituto Cultural Floresta. Coronel, muito obrigado. Thank you very much for your time and your visits to Porto Alegre, Brazil.
Thank you very much. Gracias, Porto Alegre.